Lincoln, how's it going, my friend?
Good. How are you, Ram?
I'm good. It's nice to see you, and thanks for joining me on Dads with Mikes. I'm really excited for this episode today.
Yeah, no, happy to be here and glad you invited me. I think it's great what you're doing, interviewing dads. So, yeah, happy to be a part of it.
Thanks, I appreciate that. So, Lincoln, start us off a little bit with some background info on you. How old are you? You got any kids? How old they are?
Yes, I'm 37. I have four kids, and it's it's a lot of fun because I grew up with a family of seven, so I have six siblings.
Wow.
My wife just had one sister, and so I like to think we kind of met in the middle, between two and seven. And it worked out great. We're blessed with two boys who are older, 6 and 8, and then two girls who are younger, 2 and 3.5. So it's kind of fun because I like to think of my boys when they get older, kind of watching out for their younger sisters. So that's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
fun. And they can be, for the most part, they can be very sweet to the younger sisters and gentle with them and, you know, trying to teach them how to be kind to girls. So, but it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, I've got four kids. Actually, today is my 15th wedding anniversary. Um,
Oh, congrats.
so we got married at 22, young and dumb, just a couple of kids. And I think that's fun. Everybody's different, but I think for us, we really enjoyed like getting married young and kind of building a life together. Because when I was 22, I had like barely any money, no career.
I don't
You
know
know what I
any
mean?
young 20-year-olds that have a career or anything in place.
So it's like you kind of just figure things out and learn about life together and grow up together. And now we're in our late 30s and we still feel like we're 25, you
That's
know.
awesome.
But and I grew up in the DC area, ended up going to a college in Georgia, meeting her there. And then, I bought a one-way ticket to Alaska because she was from Anchorage in 2008, and we got married in 2009. So, no, it's been good. And I work in oil and gas. I do financial accounting. I'm a manager. I'm big into fitness and staying active. And, the last few years, I've really been thinking a lot about like what it means to be a good dad, what kind of dad I want to be. We all kind of react to how we were parented, right?
Sure.
Um,
But what made
and
you think
so,
about all that? You said that in the recent years you started thinking about that more. Why? Like, is something happened
well,
that you?
part of it's just having kids, right? I never really thought too much about it. And then the first couple of kids, you don't really know what you're doing. You kind of just make it up as you go.
Oh yeah.
We had friends, but we didn't have a lot of older friends that were parents. You know what I mean? So it's kind
Okay.
of like, okay, how do we really be good parents? So that's been good for our marriage too. It's like we have a lot of conversations on, this child is going through this. Like, do we need to change our approach? What's working? What's not working? Like, are we not, you know, should we change? Like, are we doing something that's making things worse? So that's been good to kind of bond over that. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell right there.
Okay. Did you guys always know how many kids you wanted, or like how did you guys get the four? Was that a plan
We
or?
we didn't. I mean, we always wanted kids. We actually thought we weren't going to have kids because my wife has like this blood condition to where um, she clots real fast, and that
Okay.
doesn't work for pregnancies because of like the placenta or something like that. It's got to have good blood flow.
Right.
But then she got onto like a blood thinner. So she has to like shoot herself up the whole pregnancy every day. But after we had a couple, we took a break and then I wanted to keep on going because I was like, two kids, it's gonna be a lot more fun. I had this image of like sitting around the table, they're all like in between 10 and 20, and we're just having lots of fun. And then when they grow up and they come home and like just raucous laughter, because that's kind of like how family get-togethers are for me. So the third pregnancy was very tough. She had like super high blood pressure, and the doctors were like, it'll go away once the baby is born. It didn't. We went back to the hospital like right after the baby was born. Very stressful. She had to have like this big protocol. She had horrible headaches. It was terrible. So we almost didn't have another one. But I was like, honey, we gotta have another one. Like we can fill up a whole airplane row. And we're really glad that we had that last one because she's adorable. She's super cute and she's a lot of fun. So, but
So it
yeah,
was
we kind of
mostly
just,
you that wanted more, or she was kind of like just going along with what you were wanting, or it
yeah, it was mostly me.
was
And
mostly
I think it's just because I came from a bigger family and
yeah.
I just had this vision of like loud meals, and just a lot of fun. So,
So then your childhood and then your family, you obviously have mostly good memories from that it made you want to almost replicate that. Not seven
yeah,
kids, I guess, but
not seven. Like, because I think, I have a buddy that's my age that they had started having kids before us, and they were like, we're just going to have as many kids as we can. And then they got to six, and I was talking to him, and he was like, like some days I realized like I haven't even interacted with one or two kids. And so that's kind of what made us say, like, okay, how many can we actually pour ourselves into? Like, how many can we invest and spend time with and have one-on-ones and like really love them? Right. And it was like, well, maybe four is a good number, you know?
so, okay,
So
so you are able to spend one-on-one time with each one of your four children?
it's not all of them necessarily, but I think that's, I mean, yes and no. But, the oldest is only 8. So,
Okay.
like, I think as they get older, it's like, just having enough time to spend to invest in each of them instead of like, oh man, I didn't even talk to that one kid today.
Yes.
Because growing up, like with 6 siblings, like I don't have a lot of like memories of me and my dad or me and like my only memories of me and my mom were, you know, tagging along with her to go to like a brother's baseball game or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, so let me ask you this. What was the best part about being one of seven, and what was the worst part about being one of seven?
Well, I'm right in the middle. So I've got 3 older, 3 younger. I'm kind of the youngest of the old group and the oldest of the young group.
Right.
I would say the best was that you always had somebody to play with, be with. There's already always people at home. The worst was probably, well, I guess there's a few negatives. One would be, we didn't really have a lot of money growing up. And so spread that out over 9 people. I think it made me entrepreneurial in the sense that, like, I had a lawn business. I was working at a law firm in high school. I had a bunch of money saved. I bought my own car, paid for my own insurance and gas, because otherwise I wasn't going to have any of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I, basically all my clothes were hand-me-downs and stuff like that. But I guess if you get rid of the money aspect, the worst would just be I didn't really get close to my parents until I was in my 20s.
Okay. A consequence of being one of seven or one of, many children like that, having that many siblings. Did you ever feel neglected or like you didn't have that
Not
much attention?
not neglected, but that's one thing that I'm kind of shifting for my kids is like I want to play with them every day. I want to, go outside, chase them around, kick the ball. go on the trampoline. You know what I mean? Like have those
Yeah.
fun childhood memories with them because I don't remember playing with my parents at all. Like zero, you know. I don't hold it against them. I mean, they kind of came from austere backgrounds. There's seven of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I don't hold it against them, but it's just something that I want to change for my kids.
Your parents probably figured, you got six siblings to play with, so what do I have to play with you? And that was the
Yeah,
mentality back then, I think. It's probably the same thing for me. I don't remember my dad playing with me that much, but
yeah,
it's not a negative thing necessarily. It's just that's just how it was back then. The man
right,
worked, came home from work, relaxed, and we just played amongst ourselves. It's
right.
mostly it. So you have four kids, and it's kind of your profile is kind of interesting online because you talk a lot about parenting and you talk a lot about fitness. So tell us a little bit, do in your opinion, do those two go together and should they go together?
I think that in some ways they don't, but the way I have them together is that if you're overweight and after you work as a dad, let's say the dad works and the mom stays at home, or the mom works too. At the end of the day, is an overweight dad gonna wanna go play with his kids and like make them happy? Um, no. Is he gonna be worn out? Probably, you know. So I think that kind of ties it together. Like if you're fit and you're energetic, you're going to have fun with your kids. And I think with little kids, especially, you're not going to have like a bunch of deep conversations with them to build that relationship. You're going to build a relationship by like doing stuff with them,
Yeah.
right? Hey, Dad, come build Legos with me. Hey, can we go play in the driveway? Can we do hide and seek? Can we do tag? Can we go on a bike ride? And it's like if you just say no, no, no because you're worn out, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, dad doesn't want to hang out with me. And it's like, how does that make them feel? And if you do that enough, they're gonna stop asking. And I think like before 10, definitely more before 12, is when you have a specific opportunity to connect with them, mold them, like teach them, educate them. And if you're just like overweight and tired and you don't feel like doing anything at the end of the day and on the weekends, then you're missing a huge opportunity. So I think that's how it ties together for in my mind.
Yeah, makes sense. Were you always in shape? You didn't always were like that, right? You started off, well, how would you describe yourself?
I think I was in shape in college, pretty active. And then, I had like an eye injury. I kind of, we got married and then I was not active in my 20s. I actually had some bad habits of just like drinking too much, not eating well, not sleeping well, didn't like my job, gained weight. But then by the time like 2015 rolled around, it was like, man, or actually a few years before that, I was like, I got to get my act together. And then once we had started having kids, I wasn't like terribly out of shape, but I wasn't in shape at all. I'd have like periods where I would run a lot and I thought that was good. And then I had like lower back pain, which kind of made standing up for long periods a drag. And then that's when I think it was like April of 2022, we had just had our fourth child. And it was like, I want to be a fun dad. I'm not going to be a fun dad if I'm out of shape and I've got back pain. I really have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and I was thinking like, I want to be a fun dad and then I also want to be like a fun grandpa. So it's like, I need to shift my focus and change my life like now. And if it takes a long time, great, but at least start. So that was kind of the turning point for me. It was like the fourth child.
Why do you think a lot of people let themselves go? Or dad, maybe dads specifically, but probably parents too. But let's focus on dads for now, because I mean we're both dads. So
Yeah,
why do you
I
think a lot of
think
dads let themselves go after they've
they
had
just,
kids?
I think they just let life happen and they get passive. It's like maybe they're doing well at work, maybe not, but they're busy, right, with
Yeah.
work. And if you're not intentional about life, life happens to you. And then before you know it, you've gained 15 pounds, 20 pounds. And it's like, oh, whoa, you step on the scale or you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, wait, what happened? I think that's, I think that's how it goes for dads usually.
Yeah, and look, I was one of them. For some reason, well, I guess just for the reasons that you said, I after I had my two kids, it's almost like I didn't even realize it, but I developed this dad bod. I
Yeah.
was actually pretty chubby after my second kid, and the way it happened for me was I went to the store to go buy some pants, and I got my usual size, and I went to try them on, and I couldn't zip them up. So
Yeah.
I go try take another pair, maybe maybe it's the style or the brand. I went to grab some other ones. Same thing, couldn't zip them up. So I looked at myself in the mirror, just like you said. Oh my God, man, what did you do?
Yeah.
And that was the day that I went back home, empty-handed, no bags. I didn't buy anything. My wife looks at me and says, "What happened?" And I tell her, "Well, I'm a fat F. That's what happened." So the next day, I just decided to dial it in, nutrition-wise,
Yeah.
exercise, and I'm still working it off, man. Look, just a couple of years ago that I started getting in shape, and I'm not done yet, and it's become to a point where like I'm actually obsessed with it now. And I started
Yeah.
off with the typical, bro split of
Yeah.
working out chest on Mondays and like back and shoulders on Tuesdays and so on. And so I was going like 4 or 5 days a week plus cardio. So I
Yeah.
started off really hard because I was angry. I was angry at myself. So
And
that's what
sometimes that's
pushed me.
good, you
Yeah.
know, like that's really good. It's like, you know what, this, I'm pissed, you know. I think, yeah, no, that's, yeah, I think that's how it goes. You know, you just time flies by, every day just kind of zips by, and then suddenly before you know it, you're like, man, I don't like the way I look at all. And I don't feel good, and I'm tired, and it's like, man, I gotta make a change.
What would you recommend to guys like me who started developing some, excess fat and I want to get started and don't really have necessarily a background of fitness or,
Yeah,
never really worked out that much in the past, maybe a little
yeah.
bit, and they want to get started. Do you recommend what I did was to just go hard from the start or slowly, gradually get into it?
I think, I mean, I'm an all or nothing kind of person. And if you ask my wife, she'll say, "Oh yeah, Lincoln's like all or nothing." But I think where that failed me in the past is I would like go too hard and then I would like lose momentum. And I'm also a momentum person. So then I would just like get frustrated or like too sore or like I'd burn out and then I would quit. So I think for the normal guy, if they don't have like a bunch of anger and they can't keep it up, I would just build in a habit, but like work on the habit first, like cutting out junk food, or at least most of it, cutting out mindless like snacking and sugar, because that's the stuff that's going to add weight quickly.
Yeah.
And then just walk more. And if they have an opportunity to go to a gym, I would start going to the gym, um, and try to work out like 2 or 3 times a week, lifting weights. I've done a couple half marathons. Like I used to run 30 miles a week in periods. but I never got very lean doing that. Like I'm 6'2", and right now I weigh 200. Like I would get down into the 180s, but like I wasn't, there was still a bunch of like fat on my stomach. So I think a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to start running, you know? And it's like if you're 20, 30 pounds overweight, it's actually not great for your joints. I would focus on the nutrition and walking first if you have a bunch of weight to lose. But if guys want to do it, like go start working out at the gym too, 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, I'm kind of addicted now to the gym because like every month I'm like, I track all my workouts and how much I'm lifting and what I'm doing, and like I'm getting stronger every month. So I'm kind of like addicted to it. It's like a little bit of like a dopamine, like seeing the numbers go higher every month.
It's the right kind of dopamine.
Yeah, it's like I'm addicted to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week. But if you're just starting out, just like build the momentum and the habit,
Okay.
um,
And
and focus
focus
on
on weights or
nutrition,
nutrition.
you
Okay.
know, because like for example, I weighed 210 in April of 2022, and I was super flabby. You can go, I mean, I put it on X a few times, and the first 6 months, I just did intermittent fasting. It's not for everybody. Some people like get super cranky if they skip breakfast, but for me, it was so convenient. It was like all I would have was just black coffee in the morning, and then I wouldn't eat anything until lunch, and then I wouldn't eat anything until after 7. It was super convenient. I think it's a great diet for dads because you're naturally going to eat less.
Yeah.
And then if you don't eat at night, when a lot of people kind of tend to snack, like, oh, I'm good, kids are down to bed, watching TV with your wife. I'm just gonna have like some chips or some popcorn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're on intermittent fasting, it's like, no, I can't eat anything after 7 or 8 o'clock. So then you're like, oh man, I'm super hungry. Well, you didn't eat enough during the day.
Yeah.
So then you like force yourself to eat more during the day, and then you're not hungry at night. But anyways, so my first 6 months, I was mostly focused on nutrition. Like I cut out processed sugar, did intermittent fasting, and I lost like 20 pounds. And then it was like, okay, I worked out a little bit, not a lot. And then after that, I kind of started like doing more lifting.
But by
I don't know
doing
if
that, didn't you got skinnier, right? Since you were working
yeah,
out a
I
lot, you were
got
focused on nutrition,
yeah, I lost 20 pounds in 6 months. I was down to like 190, 188.
but you weren't muscular yet.
No.
Okay. So would you advise that way and just focus on cutting the fat initially and then later on, once you're down to a decent body fat percentage, then you could start focusing on adding muscle?
I think you
'Cause-
could. It all depends on like how much time you have and like what you are actually going to do. Like I feel like the common thing is like, oh, I'm gonna do Whole 30. I'm gonna do keto. I'm gonna do like a crazy workout routine. And then after a month, people are like, oh man, I'm sick of this. Like I'm sore, I'm tired. Like I just want some chips. So it's like, what are you going to actually consistently do over the long haul? Do that, you know.
Okay.
I think whatever you can sustain. And so that's why it's like actually the thread that blew up yesterday, I had like 8 things you could do. If you did all of them and you could keep it up, you're going to make fast progress. But it's like not everybody can do all of them.
Can you walk us through that? The simple things that you should do to lose fat?
Yeah, so the first one I said was intermittent fasting, just because it's any weight loss, you're going to need a calorie deficit, right?
Yeah.
And again, like I've preached it to my family members, my younger sisters all need to lose weight, but they like hate intermittent fasting. It's like they get super grumpy. There's a guy on Twitter that is like super health guy. He says that like skipping breakfast like raises your cortisol. And it's like, well, Yeah, maybe, but so does caffeine, you know. I don't know. It just depends. Works for some people, doesn't work for everybody.
What's
Everybody's
the
body's
alternative
different.
then? If you don't want to do intermittent fasting, then the alternative is what? Is tracking, right? Or just lowering your portions for every meal. If you're going to do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and possibly even snacks, if some people do that, I mean, they shouldn't, because if you're cutting fat or trying to, and you're not that active to begin with, then how do you justify having snacks?
Yeah, I think the alternative is just eating whole food, right?
Okay,
So the outer ring of the grocery store, right?
right.
So it's like meat, vegetables, the lowest processed food you can find. And then you got to figure out like how much your body's actually burning right now, and then lower it by a little bit, like maybe 250 to 500 calories a day. For example, if you calculate, I think there's calculators online, put
Yeah.
in your height, weight, and your activity level, and it says, boom, you burn 2,500 calories a day. Well, you need to only eat like 2,000, do that for a month. You should lose like 4 or 5 pounds. But if you also like eat better, if you eat more protein, it's going to be even better for you. So yeah, so number one was intermittent fasting. I think number two is lifting weights. Number three, I said sprints. People argued with me about sprints on that on the comments.
Why?
Um, is there like, I said, sprint for a minute and then walk for a minute, do that like 6 to 8 times. And they're like, nobody sprints for a minute. It's like, well, when I started that out, I was doing 3.5 miles an hour for the walk and 8 miles an hour for the run. I mean, it's a run, but like as I got better at that, I was running like 10 or 11 miles an hour for the sprint. But really, could you call it a sprint? Maybe, I can get up to like 15, 16, 17 miles an hour for like 10 seconds. So, but like what it's good for is increasing like your cardiovascular ability, your lungs. And then if you're pushing yourself for just a minute, 30 seconds or a minute, and then walking a little bit and then pushing yourself, it's like taxing the body and saying, hey, we really need some energy right now.
Okay.
So, what else did I write?
But how much
I think
does
I,
that contribute to the fat loss if you're sprinting for like a minute and 6 rounds of it?
well, they say sprinting signals to your body to like use stored fat for energy.
Okay.
But I think you're just going to get faster. And if you can go run like a 6 minute mile, not a lot of overweight people are going to be able to do that, right?
Yeah,
So it's
probably
just
not.
natural that the faster you get, the less body fat that you have. I'm sure there's a ton of science. I don't know the science. I don't need to know. It's kind of like the refrigerator. It
It just works.
works. I have no idea how a refrigerator works, but it does. I also had sleep on there.
Mhm.
If you're only So for guys, if you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, your testosterone is going to be lower. You're going to have less self-control, which means it's going to be easier to say, I don't feel like going to the gym, or it's going to be easier to just like eat the cupcakes that are in the cafeteria that somebody set out. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have less self-control, less discipline. You're not going to want to go play with your kids. And that's the other thing. It's like you can eat better and work out. But then another cool thing is if you're going on like walks with your family or you're playing with their kids in the backyard, those are like fun, absent-minded ways to just burn more calories, you
Oh,
know?
for sure.
So it's like sometimes I look at my watch and I wasn't outside of lifting, I wasn't very active at the office, but I still hit like 12,000 steps because after dinner I went and played soccer for a half hour with my kids. You know what I mean?
What
What
do you
else
think,
did I?
speaking of steps, what do you think of the whole, you see it a lot online, 10,000 steps a day? Is that just like a fad number that came out and everybody jumped on board, or Or is there, do you agree with that? Is that like a what everybody should aim for on a daily basis?
I think it's a good number. I mean, it might be one of those things that like doesn't have a lot of science around it, but I think they've done studies or polls or whatever, and most Americans only get like 3 or 4 thousand steps.
Right.
And it's like 10,000 is probably about 4 or 5 miles for most people. So if you're walking 4 or 5 miles a day, that's an extra 400 or 500 calories that you're burning, right?
Yeah.
So another thing I had was protein. So protein, I think it takes like 20 or 30% of the calories to actually just digest it. And
Okay.
so you're not even getting those calories because it requires more energy for your body to use them.
Right.
The other good thing about protein is that it's typically fills you more. 500 calories of beef is going to be more filling than 500 calories of pasta. So
Yeah.
it's like on your little tracker, oh, I had 2,000 calories today, but like, what did you have? If it was like beef, rice, vegetables, like a protein shake, and some other stuff, then you're going to be healthier than the person that had pasta, cookies. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
kind of it's better quality. And then what else did I say? Oh, when you are lifting, if you do the same weight and reps, then your body's going to get used to it and then your gains are just going to stop. So like pushing yourself, progressive overload, more
Yeah.
weight, more reps, that's going to help. And then I mentioned cutting out junk food, right? It's like the whole junk food thing is like they've got chemists and engineers at these big companies to say like, how do we make this food as addicting as possible? Like, have you ever had like some of my favorite chips are Ruffles?
Okay.
And it's like sometimes I'll like we have Ruffles. Like I'm not like a crazy person. Like I don't avoid everything. I just know that I need to have it like a little bit. But like sometimes like you'll open the bag and you'll have a chip and you'll be like, this is a good bag of Ruffles. It's like they nailed it. They've got like the crunch, a little bit of grease, salt. It's like it's a perfect combo and it tastes delicious. But it's
Right.
like it's completely garbage.
Okay, but should people cut these out completely for people starting out? Okay, like we said in the beginning, dad bods. For
Yeah.
people starting out, should they cut them out completely, cold turkey, or gradually phase them out, or apply something like the 80-20 rule?
I
Uh,
would do I would do the 80 or 90 or 10
okay,
because if you cut something out completely, then there's a chance that you like break down and then go overboard one day,
yeah,
right? Which I have done, right?
me
It's
too.
like so if you got to think about like what's sustainable over the long term, and my wife and I, we've done keto, we've done a few of the popular diets before. And like what tends to happen is you do it, you lose weight, and then once you've kind of like hit your goal weight or you did it for 2 or 3 months, you're like, okay, like back to my old bad habits. And it's like, well, what was the point of doing it then? Right. So
Just gonna reverse it
yeah, you kind
and
of
gain
have
it
to,
back.
yeah. So it's like whatever's sustainable, I think is the good part.
Is there
Um,
something that should be cut out completely? Okay, like maybe hamburgers, you could fit it into your diet, if you're having once a week, it's like your one meal where,
Well, I
it,
think hamburgers can actually be healthy. Like if you have good bread
yeah, not
and like
McDonald's, obviously, but
yeah, yeah,
it,
like homemade
right,
burgers can be totally fine, you know?
sourdough bread.
Yeah. It's like they can be healthy, they can be totally delicious and healthy. Like a lot of people think, oh, I can't have burgers or pizza or any of that stuff. It's like, no, health food can be delicious. You
Yeah.
just have to find good ingredients do some seasoning, you know.
So then what's
Um,
something that should become completely cut out, if any? Alcohol, sweets,
I think alcohol and processed sugar, people should push themselves to cut it completely out
even if
because,
they fit it into their, let's say they're tracking, okay, and they're allowed 2,000 calories.
yeah, I would still avoid the sugar. I mean, with alcohol, every drink has to be processed by like your, I mean, people drink alcohol at night.
Yeah,
They just do. And if you
hopefully.
drink it during the day, people are like, you're a crazy alcoholic day drinker. So people typically drink it at night. Well, that's going to disrupt your sleep.
Yeah.
You won't sleep as well. They're empty calories. And it's like, what are you going to have several drinks at night? You know, that's like several hundred calories of just something that's going to slow you down and ruin your sleep. I mean, unless you're like completely addicted, you should be able to do it, right? And I mean, I used to have a huge drinking problem, and it was like I had to cut it out. And it makes losing weight a lot easier, honestly.
It's a big factor for sure.
But processed sugar and alcohol, I would say if you got 30 pounds to lose, cutting those out is going to make it a lot easier.
Okay, but in terms of fat loss, because we all know the health benefits of cutting it out completely. But in terms of fat loss, let's say somebody, I just need that Friday night beer, and I'm able to just have one. If I fit it into my daily caloric intake, is that okay? Am I a bad
Sure.
person?
No, you're not a bad person. I mean, they say don't ever have more than two in a day, and I think I don't know, 10 or so a week. But there have been there's a lot of fitness gurus out there
Yeah.
that are like, I've cut it out and I feel a lot better. And I think people should still push themselves to cut it out. But if you have to have that one beer on Friday and it fits in, it's like, sure. I mean, like whatever's sustainable. Because you really think about it, it's like you're not trying. I think people should avoid the whole I'm gonna get in shape in 3 months. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're a dad, you've got kids, you want to be in shape over the long haul. So again, just go back to like whatever's sustainable, right?
Yeah, you want to keep it up, right? And say, look, if you get
Yeah,
it done after 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is, and then you stop and you go back to your old habits, like you said, you're just gonna put the weight back on. So then and then
yeah,
you're back at the beginning. So like what was the
yeah,
point?
right,
Just to prove yourself that you can do it. And that wasn't the point.
right.
And it's like it was the same thing for me. I started out thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna do this to lose the fat and get in shape. But then once I got it going and I got used to it, it's like I said in the beginning, I'm almost obsessed with it. And now it's part of my daily routine. It's like I can't go without it. And when I do miss it for some reason, then I don't feel good at the end of the day.
Right.
So it's just part of my routine now. Like morning coffee, well, workout. It's in there. Has to be. And we're
Yeah.
all busy. A lot of people are busy, and I'm sure you are too. Look, you got a full-time job. You're doing this online thing with X and coaching, and you got 4 kids, other responsibilities, I'm sure. So what would you say to people that probably tell you, you know what, Lincoln, I just don't have the time. So when am I supposed to work out?
I would say if you think you don't have the time, then you don't actually want it enough because there's tons of guys out there waking up at 5 a.m. so they can work out, so then they can go to their job, so they can come home, be with their family, for a few hours before bed. If that's the only thing that works out, that's what you're going to have to do. Go to bed earlier, don't watch TV 2 hours every night, right? It's like, what are you getting out of that extra episode of whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, do you want it or not? Because
Yeah.
I've done that myself. It's like, I don't want to go to the gym after work, I mean, my current setup makes it super easy, and I'm blessed because I've got a gym in the building.
Oh,
So I know
nice.
my situation is not like everybody's. Like, I know it's easy for me,
You work out on
but
your lunch hour?
yeah,
Okay.
but it's like there's tons of guys out there that just wake up early and go to the gym and then come back home, get ready for work. It's like tons of people do it. Why can't why can't you? I don't I think the people that say I don't have time, I can't do it, just don't want it, you know.
They don't want it bad enough.
No.
And what does it
And
look
it's like
like?
that's hard. That's hard for people to hear, but it's like
Yeah,
whatever you
it's the
want bad
truth
enough, whatever you want bad enough, you're gonna figure out a way to make it happen.
for sure. And how should it, what should a workout look like for those people that say that they're really busy, but they want to? So they at least there's that. Okay. So they're aware they need to
Yeah.
get it done, start doing this, but they are really busy.
Yeah.
Do workouts need to be an hour long, or is this a common misconception? What does
No,
it
I don't
need to
think you
look
need to
like?
do it. I mean, my brother's got 4 kids, they're older. And he's super busy. So what works for him right now is he wakes up early and he does a body weight workout at home. So there's no travel to and from the gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that's what works for him. So for some people, do a body weight workout. There's tons of, there's Apple Fitness, there's people you can sign up with for like $100 a year. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of workouts out there. My wife actually has no time. She's got she's got kids at home. She stays at home with the kids. She is super busy. And what works for her is she does body weight workouts. We have like a few weights at home, so she uses those sometimes whenever she has time. It's not like a set time every day like me or like other people, but it's like that's what works for her and that's what she does. So it's like I
What's
think
the
of people that are short on time do body weight workouts at home.
at home? Okay. And is that,
Yeah.
was that still get you? Look, let's face it, that's probably not going to get you jacked, but is that enough
No,
to get you
no.
decent shape?
Yeah, I mean, if you combine that with nutrition and more walking, that's going to get you a lot of the way there.
Okay.
No,
And
you
that's,
won't be jacked, but it's like not everybody wants to be, right? They just want to be a
yeah.
fit, fun dad that plays with their kids, and that'll be good enough, right?
Yeah. I was just proactively wanting to respond to the comment saying, how are you gonna, you're not gonna get shredded doing that 3 times a week, 20 minutes body weight. So I'm saving you some time here.
No, no, no. You probably won't. And actually, that's I randomly I'll send a picture of myself to my brothers, and one of them was like, "Yeah, I just don't have time to go to the gym right now, but I'm doing body weight workouts in the morning," and he looks fine. And so it's like, if that's the only thing that works, then just do that.
Nice. Lincoln, thank you so much for doing this. This is really good advice, and I think that anybody can apply these simple, not easy because it's not easy to get going. We all know that, but it is simple. Just like you said, if you focus on the nutrition, you allow yourself some leeway, like 80/20 or 90/10, like you were saying. Basic workouts at home, body weight workouts, if that's all you could do. So the nutrition, the exercise, what would you tell people in terms of not giving up? What are some like wise last words that you could tell people that are going to start this journey, this fitness journey, to not give up?
I think the biggest thing that's worked for me is having like a strong reason why. Because if you don't have a strong reason why, then you're going to quit when you get busy or you're tired or you just don't feel like it anymore. If you follow your feelings, then it's going to be super easy for you to give up. And a lot of people don't change things until they have that like terrible moment, right? Where the doctor is like, you're super close to having a heart attack, right? And so suddenly they change their eating, they exercise, and they get better and they lose weight. And like, but that was their why. It's like, you're gonna die, you know? But like, if you don't have that you're gonna die moment, people will give up if they don't have a good, strong reason. And so for me, it was like, I want to change so that I can be a fun dad because my kids are fun. They have tons of energy. And I don't want to be a dad that's not fun. I don't want to be the lame dad. I just don't because I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to feel lame and not fun. And it's like my kids are going to grow up and they're going to be like, yeah, I love dad, but like we didn't play a lot with him. And it's going to be like, I'm going to feel awful. So that was my strong why. And then that got me started. And then once I was going and I had momentum, I don't really need a strong why anymore. And I don't need motivation. It's like my numbers in the gym getting higher are my motivation. So I think if people are going to stick with something, they need to find like a big reason why. Like, and you and I know some people through this Lords of X that, like, I think Jake kind of had this moment with his marriage where they almost got divorced and he didn't change until he almost like got to that point, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same thing with marriage, right? It's like people won't change until they have that terrible moment where like the wife is like, I can't do it anymore. People have it with the heart attack in their health, or, people have it at work with, hey, your performance is pretty bad. Like, we're putting you on a program, and if you don't improve, you're fired. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of getting to that point, like, decide right now, why am I doing this? And then once you kind of like got a death grip on like why you're doing it, then on those hard days where you're like, I don't feel like doing it, it's like, no, I'm doing this for my kids, and I want to have energy for my wife. I want to look good for my wife or whatever.
Yeah. Awesome. Let us know, where can people find you if they want to ask you for help? Where can they find you online? What are you working on?
I'm working on some parenting stuff and probably some fitness stuff. But you can find me on X. I don't know why I picked this, but I picked Flabby to Fit 99.
That's
So
fine.
that's my name on X. So feel free to ask me questions with DMs.
Cool. Thanks again for doing this, man.